Hello everybody, and welcome to the midterm exam test review. So today I want to go through just a few little things that I hope will help to make the exam itself go a little more smoothly. First, I wanted to talk just about when the test will open and about how much time you will have. So the test will actually open on Wednesday, October 14th at noon. And it will remain open until Sunday, October 18th at about 11 p.m. that night. Now, that said, you only have 3 hours to get the test done. So once you open the test and get started on it, you have to continue through the test and finish it in that 1 3-hour block. You can't get out and come back. You can't start one day and come back another day. You've got to have a dedicated 3-hour period of time to complete the test in. Another thing to know is that 3 hours is again set up as kind of a non-negotiable. Once it starts, if you get to 180 minutes and you're not finished, it's going to completely finish up the test for you and shut you down and submit the answers that you have. Something else that you'll see in the directions for the exam is that you have to answer each question as it is presented. This is important to know because that's telling you that you cannot go back to a question because you've thought of it later and thought, oh, I know a different answer. You can't back up. You can't skip a question and go back to it. When a question's presented to you, you have to go ahead and answer it at that time. So answer your questions as they're presented to you, moving through the test during that 3-hour period of time. This is also written in the instructions part of the exam. You can view that online now. The exam itself will not be visible to you until noon on Wednesday, but you can go see these instructions that I've just talked about written out. I know for myself, sometimes hearing someone say it's not as easy for me to understand as reading it. So you can go read what I've just said, and hopefully between the two things, it will provide more clarity for you. If, however, you get it read, you've heard what I've said here, and you still have questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Send me an email with a question. I'll be glad to answer it. Okay, now the other thing I want to do is go through just some broad things that I think will help you to prepare for the test. So I'm going to flip the camera around so that, maybe not. All right, I'm going to flip the camera around so that we can look at the information on the screen that I want you to think about. Okay. So test questions will cover broad categories like definitions of terms, writing study objectives, assumptions of the test, selecting correct answers, interpreting results, writing and critiquing reports, and effect size. And all of these things have been listed at the end of each class. So you can go back and see some examples. You may even go back and hear some examples in some of the prior videos that we've had posted. One of the things I do want to talk about in a little more depth is just writing study objectives. So when you get to the exam, you will see directions that look something like this. Name the specific field of study, name the independent variable, name the dependent variable, identify the independent and dependent variables by type, and then write the objective. This is the format that I want you to use when you write your objective on the test. Set it up just like this. And here's an example of what I'm looking for you to do, because it just helps me to read and understand if you have written your study objective correctly. So here's an example. Field of studies, conservation agronomy. The name of the independent variables, there are 2 in this particular case. Age, which I'm going to recode from a continuous variable into a dichotomous variable of less than 50 or equal to or greater than 50. Number of acres farmed, which is a continuous variable that I'm going to recategorize into an ordinal variable of small, medium, and large, and I've given you the ranges for what small, medium, and large would look like from that continuous data. The name of the dependent variable is willingness to restore wildlife habitat. So where it says identify the independent variable type, age is a continuous dichotomous, and acres farmed is ordinal. I collected the data as continuous, but remember up there where I named the variable, I told you I was going to recategorize it as ordinal. And then identify the dependent variable type. So the dependent variable is willingness. That suggests to you that this is going to be a construct, which in fact it is, and so it's a continuous variable. And then write the objective to determine if differences exist in farmers' willingness to restore wildlife habitat based on age or acres farmed. Now you should be able to read that objective and tell immediately that the part where you're looking at differences in willingness based on age, you would use a independent samples t-test for that analysis. And on the acres farmed, because we have 3 categories, you'd use ANOVA. So you should be able to read the objective and tell even which type of analysis would be used. So some things for thought. I want you to go into your studying and remember that I like to ask questions like, what information is missing? So if there's a report, what information is missing from this report? If there is a report or a study objective, I might ask you, what's the appropriate study objective? What is the inappropriate study objective? What's inappropriate about this report? Those are some potential questions, but it could be carried out much further than that. Another thing I like to see is for you to calculate and interpret a specific effect size using either a specific online calculator or a formula I've given you. If I ask for you to do that, use the calculator I gave you in class, not another one that you find, because sometimes they're built on different platforms and there may be minor variations in the answers that they give. Use the one I gave you. That way you get the answer that I've got and you are more likely to get the answer correct. Using a confidence interval to determine statistical significance is something else I want to remind you that we covered, just so that you can go back and listen to that and look at it on the slides or in the videos if needed. I want to back up to the broad categories and talk for just a minute about selecting the correct analysis. Make sure that you understand if it's a study objective, what's the correct analysis. So just like when we got to this objective at the end, and I gave you the example of which analysis to use for age and which one for acres farmed, make sure that you can do the same with study objectives, because I like to ask those kinds of questions. Okay, the final thing I'll mention is that I did drop in all the test review slides from classes 1 through 6. I'm not going back over those again because we went through them in each of the module lessons. You can go back to those modules to see if you have specific questions or to hear the specific things that we talked about there. This is just an effort to make it a little bit easier for you to kind of blow through and see what are some of the things that I listed as potential test areas. Okay, if you have questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have before you start the test. But please do know that once the test starts, you've got that 3 hours. You need to move on through your test at that point. So ask questions before the test, not during. Okay. Good luck on the midterm exam, and I know all of you are going to do just fine. Have a nice day.